Hey everybody, Al Norricker here for KastKing. And you know, for years you've trusted KastKing for affordable quality rods, reels, fishing line, maybe tools and accessories, almost everything you needed for fishing. But what we haven't had was bait and terminal tackle. Well, brand new to the KastKing family of brands is a new brand called MadBite. Now we're going to complete that fishing experience for you by offering all those things that you need to tie onto the end of the line to actually go catch fish. We're going to start with some species-specific kits. And these are kits that are designed for the trout fishermen, the bass fishermen, maybe crappie panfish fishermen. These high piece count kits are going to include all that terminal tackle and baits and lures that you need to actually go catch fish. So you're also going to see us come out with lures, soft plastics, and other terminal tackle items. You'll see that coming very soon. But to start with, I want to start showing you the new species-specific kits. Not only am I going to show you what's all included in the kits, but then to help you out, if you're new to fishing, I'm going to walk you through everything that's included in the kit and show you exactly how you rig it, how you tie it on your line, how you use jigs, how you use bait setups, everything you need to know to actually go be successful in the water. So that's new from MadBite, species-specific kits and a lot of lures and baits coming as well. So let's get started talking about the species-specific kits. This is the new MadBite Trout-specific tackle kit. It includes 160 pieces of the most important terminal tackle, bait, and lures for your next fishing trip. If we look inside, you'll see that there's bait holder hooks, dough bait hooks, sinkers, some lures, tube jigs, even some tools, floats, and a stringer. Now let's go over each one of these and I'll describe all the parts that are included in this kit. And remember, it's all included in this nice tackle box so you can keep it all organized. We can't go fishing without fish hooks, so we've included a large quantity of both size 6 and size 8 bait holder hooks. We've even included 6 number 6 size pre-tied snell hooks. Fishing with a soft dough bait is very popular for trout fishing, so we've even included 20 bait holder style treble hooks with the wire ring that you press that dough bait onto and it keeps it on your hook longer. Split shot are a very important part of trout fishing because you need to get your bait down to where the fish are actively feeding. Included in this kit are 36 total pieces of split shot in 3 different sizes for various applications. Snap swivels are very important and are used to attach lures to your fishing line to prevent line twist. Included in the kit are 20 size 7 brass snap swivels. Plastic floats are very important for trout fishing, especially when you want to suspend your bait somewhere between the surface and bottom structure. We've included 2 different sizes in 2 different colors so that you can always detect even that slightest bite. Spinners and spoons are often some of the most effective lures for trout fishing. Included in the kit are multiple colors, styles, and sizes of spinners and even spoons. Many anglers think that tube jigs are only meant for smallmouth and largemouth bass fishing, but I can tell you by personal experience, tube jigs work great for trout fishing. We've included 2 of my favorite colors along with the tube jig hooks for rigging. We've even included 3 different tools in the MadBite Trout kit. First is a hook remover. We also include a line nipper to make it easy to trim off that tag end of your line or remove lures from your fishing line. And finally, a fish stringer so you can easily transport your catch when you're done. And of course, all the MadBite lures and tackle assortment fits neatly into the organized box to keep you ready to go fishing at a moment's notice. Now let's take a look at how we actually use these items for our next fishing trip. All right, everybody, so we've gone through everything that's included in the MadBite Trout tackle kit. All right, you know what you get when you buy this. Now I'm going to help you learn how to rig it, how to tie it on the end of your line, when to use which of these items, on how to catch more fish. So let's just open up this box and I'll go through some very simple rigging. Okay, to begin with, we're going to get the line nipper out because we're going to need this every time that we tie a knot. And as you can see inside, there's a very sharp little cutting edge, but it's also protected, so it's a very safe device. We'll set that aside. I've got my fishing rod leaned up against the table here, and I've got 8-pound monofilament fishing line. 6 or 8 pound, that's pretty normal for trout fishing and a good way to start. So how do I attach all this stuff, and in what order do I do that? I'm going to start by using this number 7 brass snap swivel. Okay, we're going to use that as the connection device to make it very easy to attach some of the other items in the kit. So I'm going to start by tying that onto my monofilament line, and I'm going to use what we call an improved clinch knot. Now I'm not going to go over all the methods to tie that or the process to tie that knot, but it's easy to learn it. It's something you should practice at home before you get out on the water, and you'll get very good at it very quickly. So when you tie a knot, the one important thing, no matter what kind of knot you tie, is once I make that attachment, I'm always going to get that line wet, just like that. So when I slide that knot together and tighten it down, it slides very easily across itself and it doesn't damage the line. Then I'm going to use my line cutter, cut off that tag end so that it's not showing, just nice and tight to that snap swivel. Once I have the snap swivel attached, now I'm going to decide what I'm going to put on that. And to begin with, we said that we were going to fish with some bait, right? So bait is probably one of the most popular ways to fish for trout, and that might be worms, it might be grasshoppers, it might be some scented bait that you'd buy at the store in different kind of packages. In this particular case, I want to set it up to fish with a basic worm, garden hackle, all right? Very popular, and to do that, I'm going to select one of the pre-tied snelled fish hooks. So it's monofilament line attached to a snell or attached to a bait holder style hook, and it has a loop on the end of that line. I'm simply going to open up that snap swivel and hook it right over that loop and then close the snap. All right, everybody, so we've gone through everything that's included in the MadBite Trout tackle kit. All right, you know what you get when you buy this. Now I'm going to help you learn how to rig it, how to tie it on the end of your line, when to use which of these items, on how to catch more fish. So let's just open up this box and I'll go through some very simple rigging. Okay, to begin with, we're going to get the line nipper out because we're going to need this every time that we tie a knot. And as you can see inside, there's a very sharp little cutting edge, but it's also protected, so it's a very safe device. We'll set that aside. I've got my fishing rod leaned up against the table here, and I've got 8-pound monofilament fishing line. 6 or 8 pound, that's pretty normal for trout fishing and a good way to start. So how do I attach all this stuff, and in what order do I do that? I'm going to start by using this number 7 brass snap swivel. Okay, we're going to use that as the connection device to make it very easy to attach some of the other items in the kit. So I'm going to start by tying that onto my monofilament line, and I'm going to use what we call an improved clinch knot. Now I'm not going to go over all the methods to tie that or the process to tie that knot, but it's easy to learn it. It's something you should practice at home before you get out on the water, and you'll get very good at it very quickly. So when you tie a knot, the one important thing, no matter what kind of knot you tie, is once I make that attachment, I'm always going to get that line wet, just like that. So when I slide that knot together and tighten it down, it slides very easily across itself and it doesn't damage the line. Then I'm going to use my line cutter, cut off that tag end so that it's not showing, just nice and tight to that snap swivel. Once I have the snap swivel attached, now I'm going to decide what I'm going to put on that. And to begin with, we said that we were going to fish with some bait, right? So bait is probably one of the most popular ways to fish for trout, and that might be worms, it might be grasshoppers, it might be some scented bait that you'd buy at the store in different kind of packages. In this particular case, I want to set it up to fish with a basic worm. So because we're going to fish with bait to begin with, I'm going to select out of this box one of the pre-tied snelled fish hooks. And basically that's a bait holder hook, just like that right there, tied with a snell knot to a monofilament line, and it has a loop on the end just like that. I'm going to open up this snap swivel and I'm going to attach that loop to the snap swivel, close it back down so it doesn't come off, and now I've got my hook attached to my main fishing line, just like that. But now if I'm fishing with worms, how am I going to get that worm down to where the fish live? Because typically they feed pretty close to the bottom. Now, there's other cases where those fish will be suspended, but we're going to target them on the bottom. So I'm going to need some weight, approximately 18 or 20 inches above my fish hook in order to get it down. So we know that in the box we have a lot of split shot, different sizes, right? There's a slot in that split shot, and I'm just going to lay my line right through that slot, just like that. And again, approximately 18 to 20 inches above that hook. Take my pair of pliers, and I'm just going to squeeze that closed, and now my split shot is attached to the fishing line, just like that, approximately 18 to 20 inches above my hook. I'm going to make that cast out there. The weight's going to take it to the bottom, and then I just wait for that fish to come along, see that nice big juicy worm laying down there, and eat that worm. All right? So that's one method. Now, as you know, in the box here is regular bait holder hooks as well that aren't already tied. Now, if I wanted to attach one of these to it, I would simply tie it directly to my fishing line. I would not use the snap swivel to hook onto that eye right there of the hook. Tie my fishing line with that improved clinch knot directly to that bait holder hook. But what's nice about having a snap swivel on here is if I decide that I want to change techniques, and now all of a sudden I want to fish with a spinner or a spoon of some sort, I can very quickly change lures. I can open it up, take off that snelled fish hook that I was using for bait, attach the spinner in the same way, close it up again, and now I'm ready to make a cast with a different bait, in this case a spinner. If I decide that that yellow spinner isn't working, I can take it off very quickly, and maybe I want to try the black one. So just that fast, I hook it right onto that snap swivel, and now I've got a black spinner ready to go. And in the same way, if that's not working, maybe I want to add a spoon. Spoons are very, very popular. Okay, I love catching trout on these spoons, and they can be fished in a lot of different ways. So just like that, I can change all these lures very, very quickly with that snap swivel. Now, let me tell you something else about the snap swivel that's very important, especially when you're fishing with spinners or spoons or anything that rotates in the water. When I make a long cast and I retrieve that lure back to where I'm standing, or maybe if I'm in a boat, what happens is this lure is spinning around. If I haven't tied a swivel to that, it will twist my line. And over time, I get all kinds of twists in that line. It becomes weak, very hard to cast. It won't cast very far. So it's really important, if you're using any type of a spinner or lure, that you always use a snap swivel to attach the lure to your line, as opposed to tying your line right to the lure. That's very, very important. Okay, so we're going to put these back in here. Now, let's say we were going to fish with a bobber. Maybe we've decided those fish aren't laying right on the bottom, okay? And they're going to be suspended somewhere between the surface of the water and the bottom structure, okay? We'll do the same thing. We're going to use that snelled fish hook again. We're going to attach it right to that snap swivel. Maybe we'll even add a little bit of split shot, maybe not quite as far down this time, maybe only 12 inches above the hook, so that when we make that cast, it will sink quicker because that worm doesn't have a lot of weight, sinks pretty slow. So I just squeeze that closed onto the line. But now I'm going to use one of the bobbers. Okay, now how far above that hook do I place the bobber? Well, that kind of depends. Depends on how deep you think those fish are, but typically 2 or 3 feet is a good starting point. And there's this little push button piece right here, and all I'm going to do is from the top end, I'm going to push that down, and now it's attached to the line. But in addition to that, I also want to attach it at the top. So there's another snap at the top. So now the bobber is attached to the top and to the bottom of the bobber. And when I make that cast, it'll float on the top and my bait will be suspended under the surface. It's an easy way to fish, especially for kids or beginners, because you just make that cast out there, the bobber floats on the top, that fish is swimming around, he sees that nice big worm or whatever bait you're using down here at the bottom, and when he eats that bait and swims away, that bobber either jumps up and down or goes completely under the surface of the water, and you simply set the hook and you're fighting the fish. So bobbers are a really good way to fish for trout and actually a lot of other species as well. And it's easy to change the depth too, because you can just simply remove your line, slide the bobber up or down, and maybe I want to fish deeper, maybe I want to fish shallower. So the bobber is a very easy way to adjust depth, and like I said, it works as a great strike indicator as well. Okay, we'll put that back in the box. Now, I want to get to the next way to fish bait. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut this piece of, or this snap swivel off. And I'm going to set that and that snelled hook aside. Because one of the most popular ways to fish trout is with a floating dough bait. And included in the kit here are these dough bait treble hooks. Okay? Now what's different about the dough bait treble hook is, first of all, it's got 3 hooks on it instead of just 1. Okay? But you'll also notice it has all those wires that wrap around the center shank of that hook. That wire makes it easy to take that soft, gooey dough bait and create a little ball of bait there by squeezing it into the wire, and that helps it stay on there. It doesn't fall off very easy. If you have a treble hook or a regular snelled hook that doesn't have that wire, that dough bait will come off pretty easy and it won't last very long. So now we're not going to use that swivel. We're going to take our main line and we're going to attach it directly to the eye of that hook. We'll use that same improved clinch knot. And again, you'll practice that at home. Practice it when you got good light. Practice it when it's not super cold so your fingers are working good. Always make sure you get that knot wet. Clip off that tag end just like that. And now you've got a floating dough bait hook ready to go. And here's what happens. So you've got that heavy weight. It's going to sink down to the bottom. But because this bait floats, only the weight will be on the bottom, and that dough bait will be floating above the bottom where the fish can easily see it. And there's lots of different colors, lots of different scents, and you'll be able to find the one that works best for you. So we've done a regular snelled hook fishing on the bottom with a worm. We've attached a bobber sinking somewhere down in the mid column of the water, maybe with a worm again. And then here's a way to fish a floating dough bait on the bottom but have the bait float up off the bottom so it's more easily seen by the fish. Those are 3 great ways to fish bait for trout. Now, let me show you something about these split shot. If you notice on the back of the split shot, there's these 2 little wings, all right? Makes it very easy to remove the split shot. You just take your pliers and squeeze those 2 little wings, and it comes right off that line, doesn't do any damage, and you're ready to go. Okay, so I'm going to cut off that dough bait treble hook. We're going to put that in the box, and I'm going to show you another bait that is included here in this kit. that I absolutely love. Now, a lot of people think that tube jigs are only meant for bass fishing or maybe crappie, panfish. They're not. Tube jigs work great for trout. And in fact, we've included my two favorite colors, white with black specks, and this is kind of a rustic orange color with some green specks in it. Tube jigs work great, and I'm going to show you how to rig those up, because also included in the kit is a tube jig hook, just like this. It has a lead head, it's kind of a conical shape, and it has a 90-degree eye along with a long shank hook. And the way you rig that is I just take my tube jig, hold it upside down, take the eye of the hook, slide it in the top, just kind of move those tentacles around, slide it in the top like that, and push it all the way up. Now you'll see there's a little bump right here where the eye of that hook is. Now I'm going to just push down on that plastic, and that eye is exposed just like that. So I've got the weighted jig, I've got the tentacles and the hook exposed right towards the back of that jig. Now, I'm going to attach that to my main line, regular monofilament fishing line or fluorocarbon, either one, and we're going to attach it the same way we did all the other ones, okay? It's going to be that same improved clinch knot. And there's 3 ways that we can fish a tube jig, and I'll explain those, okay? Again, we always get it tight and clip that off right there. Okay, now I've got my line attached to the tube jig. 3 different ways you can fish this very easily. If I'm standing on a bank or in a boat, I'll make a long cast, and I'm going to wait for this tube jig to sink all the way down to the bottom. When it hits the bottom, my line is going to go slack. While it's falling, the line is going to look tight, like this. But when it hits the bottom, it's going to go slack, and then I know it's on the bottom. As soon as it hits the bottom, I'm simply going to twitch the rod tip up and make a reel turn on the spinning reel. Twitch it up, turn the handle. Twitch it up, turn the handle. And I keep doing that all the way until it gets back to where I'm standing. Again, either on the bank or on the boat. And basically what it looks like is this falls down like this, and as soon as I twitch that rod tip up, it hops up and then falls again to the bottom. And it pops up and falls again to the bottom, just like that. And I'll just keep fishing that all the way back. And a lot of times, as it's falling and as soon as it hits the bottom, that's when those fish come down and will hit that. Now, another method is, let's say we make a long cast and we only wait for maybe 5 or 6 seconds. It's not going to get all the way to the bottom. It's somewhere in mid-column between surface and bottom structure. And now I'm just going to swim it straight back, kind of like I'm retrieving a spinner. But it's just going to swim like this. As I turn the handle, that tube jig is going to swim through the middle of the water, and the fish could eat it that way too. The third way, and this is typically done more when you're fishing in a boat, is to vertical jig a tube jig. So when I'm in a boat, I'll let it fall straight down. I'm not making a long cast. Let it fall straight to the bottom, and this tube jig will lay on the bottom just like this. And then I'm just going to jig it up and down. And I'm going to lift and drop it till it hits the bottom again. And basically what happens is that tube will rise up like this and fall and sit on the bottom. I wait a couple seconds, raise it up, let it fall and hit the bottom. And I just keep doing that. I'm fishing one area directly below the boat, typically because I know there's fish in that area, and that's another very effective way. It's easy to change it out, change different colors, put on a new jig hook. Tube jigs, a great way to fish for trout. So as you can see here, there's a lot of options. We've got live bait options, either suspended under a float, a bobber if you will, or fishing flat on the bottom with worms or any other type of bait, maybe a floating bait that's going to float up off the bottom, again using that dough bait treble hook. We've got spinners and spoons. Great way to catch trout in a lot of conditions, and there's 5 different options and colors in here for you to do that. And finally, one of my favorite ways is the tube jig. Both colors, all kinds of options here. And again, remember, you have a stringer inside the kit, so when you catch that nice big fish or a number of fish, you have a place to keep them in the water, and then of course to transport them as you go home. Hook remover, and of course the nipper tool. You'll use this all the time. It's a very, very handy tool. So that's kind of the rundown. I think if you practice those things, watch the video a couple times, you'll find a lot of different ways to catch trout. But the new MadBite Trout Kit, species-specific trout kit, 160 pieces from MadBite, and of course your friends at KastKing. I think you're going to have a lot of fun. You're going to have a lot of success fishing for trout. I'm Al Norriker for KastKing and for MadBite, and I hope to see you on the water really soon.